Commander Velthar stood at the observation window of the Galactic Council's orbital station, watching the planet Viridian Prime spin slowly below. The world looked peaceful from up here, but Velthar knew better. Down there, the war was going badly, very badly. For 30 years, the Draxian Empire had been conquering everything in its path. World after world fell to their massive armies. The coalition of 7 worlds had tried to stop them. They failed again and again. Velthar had watched it all happen. As a military observer for the Corvani people, it was his job to study warfare and write reports. He had seen 147 different species fight. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "The human ships are arriving," his assistant said, pointing at the view screen. 3 ships appeared in orbit. They were small compared to the Coalition's massive battle cruisers. They looked old, too, like someone built them in a hurry. Velthar pulled up the file on his datapad. 5,000 human soldiers. That was all Earth was sending. 5,000, Velthar whispered. The Draxians have 200,000 troops on the surface. He had read about Earth. The planet was discovered only 50 years ago, far out on the edge of known space. The humans were new to galactic society. Their technology was behind everyone else's. They had never fought in a space war before. The Coalition was desperate to accept their help, but Velthar did not understand why Earth agreed to come. The briefing room filled quickly. Coalition commanders from 7 different worlds gathered around the holographic display. They looked tired, defeated. The Draxians had pushed them back to their last defensive line. If Viridian Prime fell, 3 more worlds would be exposed. The war would be lost. The door opened and the humans walked in. Velthar studied them carefully. The leader was a man named General Taiyang Kang. He was in his mid-40s with short black hair and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. He moved with quiet confidence. Behind him came 3 others. Colonel Hyun Bei looked like a scholar, thin and thoughtful. Major Nari Song was shorter with sharp features and hands that never stopped moving. Captain Jiho Park was the youngest, but he walked like a soldier who had seen combat. The Coalition commander, a tall Vrexian named Torvan, started the briefing. He showed them the battlefield maps. Red markers covered most of the planet's surface. Those were Draxian positions. Blue markers showed Coalition forces. There were not many blue markers left. "We need every soldier we can get," Torvan said. "General Kang, we are grateful Earth has sent help." Kang nodded but said nothing. "Your forces will be assigned to hold this sector." Torvan highlighted an area on the map. It was a valley system in the planet's northern region. "The Corvan Valley. It is a secondary front. The main battle is happening here." He pointed to a different area where most of the blue markers clustered. Velthar understood immediately. They were putting the humans somewhere they would not get in the way. Somewhere the Draxians probably would not attack. The Coalition commanders did not think the humans could help in a real fight. "Tell me about the valley," Kang said. His voice was calm and even. Torvan looked surprised by the question. "It is a valley. Mountains on both sides. 3 small towns. About 20,000 civilians who have not evacuated yet." "Weather patterns?" Colonel Hyun Bei asked. "Weather patterns?" Torvan repeated. "I do not have that information readily available." "Soil composition?" Major Nari Song added. "Water sources? Seasonal temperature changes?" The Coalition commanders looked at each other. These were strange questions. Why did terrain and weather matter? Wars were won with superior firepower and better shields. Technology decided battles, not dirt and rain. "We can provide that data," Torvan said slowly. "Is there anything else you need?" "Yes," Kang said. "Where will the Draxian forces come from if they attack the valley?" Torvan pulled up tactical data. "They have a staging area here, about 200 kilometers east. If they move on the valley, they will come from that direction. But, General, I do not believe they will. The valley has no strategic value. They will focus on breaking through our main line. Maybe, Kang said. Maybe not. The briefing ended shortly after. The coalition commanders seemed relieved to have more troops, even if they were just humans. Velthar followed Kang's group as they left the room. He had been assigned to observe them and write a report on human combat capabilities. General Kang, Velthar called out, I am Commander Velthar. I will be accompanying your forces to document your tactics. Kang stopped and looked at him. For a long moment, the human general said nothing. Then he nodded. You are welcome to come. But stay out of the way when the fighting starts. You think there will be fighting? Velthar asked. Commander Torvan said the valley is not important. Every piece of ground is important in a war, Colonel Hyun Bay said. The enemy will realize that eventually. Velthar did not understand, but he followed them to the transport ship. As they traveled down to the planet's surface, he watched the humans. They were quiet, not nervous or excited, just quiet. They checked their equipment with practiced movements. Some of them slept. A few read books on data pads. Lieutenant Wu Jin Han sat near Velthar. He was cleaning his rifle, taking it apart and putting it back together over and over. Are you nervous? Velthar asked. This is your first time fighting in a galactic war. Wu Jin looked up and smiled. It was not a happy smile. Fighting is fighting. Does not matter if it is on Earth or out here. But you have never fought aliens before. They bleed, do they not? Wu Jin said. He went back to cleaning his rifle. Then they can die. The transport landed in the Corvin Valley 3 hours later. Velthar stepped out and looked around. The valley stretched out before them, green and peaceful. Mountains rose on both sides. In the distance, he could see one of the small towns Torvan mentioned. General Kong stood on a ridge, looking at the landscape. Major Narration joined him, pointing at different features. Captain Jiho Park was already organizing the troops, sending squads to different positions. What are your orders, General? Colonel Hyun Bay asked. Kang was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, We dig in, deep. This valley is ours now. We make sure everyone knows it will cost them blood to take it from us. Velthar watched as the humans began to work. He had observed 147 species at war. He thought he knew what to expect. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Velthar had been on the ground for 3 days, and nothing made sense. The humans were digging, not just simple trenches like other species made. They were digging everywhere. Tunnels ran under the valley floor, connecting positions that were kilometers apart. They carved fighting positions into the mountainsides. They dug so deep that Velthar wondered if they were trying to reach the planet's core. Major Nari Song directed the engineering work. She never seemed to sleep. Velthar found her at dawn on the second day, covered in dirt, shouting orders to her team as they reinforced a tunnel entrance with steel beams. Major Song, Velthar said, may I ask why you are building so many tunnels? She looked at him like the answer was obvious. Because they will bomb us from orbit. When that happens, we need to be underground. But the coalition has shields. Orbital bombardment is not... Shields fail, she interrupted. Technology breaks. Dirt and rock does not break so easy. She went back to work. Velthar made notes on his data pad. This level of fortification seemed excessive. The coalition military doctrine said that mobile forces won modern battles, not static defenses. But the humans kept digging. On the third day, Velthar observed Captain Jiho Park running training exercises with his infantry. They moved through the valley, practicing attacks and retreats. What shocked Velthar was how hard they pushed themselves. Human soldiers ran for hours in full combat gear. They crawled through mud. They climbed the steep mountainsides carrying heavy equipment. A Corvani soldier needed 8 hours of rest after 4 hours of combat. Velthar had learned this from medical studies. But the humans trained for 12 hours, slept for 5, and started again. They should have been exhausted. Instead, they seemed to get stronger. "Your soldiers do not rest properly," Velthar said to Captain Park. "They will collapse from fatigue." Park shook his head. "Humans can handle it. We are built for endurance." "That is not what the medical scans showed." "Your scans do not know what humans can do when we need to do it," Park said. "Pain is temporary. Failure is not." Velthar did not understand. He decided to interview individual soldiers to learn more about human thinking. He found Sergeant Sora Kim on a ridge overlooking the eastern approach to the valley. She was setting up a sniper position, carefully measuring distances and wind speed. Her rifle looked simple compared to Coalition energy weapons. "That is a projectile weapon," Velthar observed. "Why not use a plasma rifle? They have better range and accuracy." "This does what I need," Sora said, adjusting her scope. She pointed at a rock formation 3 kilometers away. "See that? I can hit a target that small from here." "That is impossible. The specifications for that weapon—" Sora fired. The crack of the rifle echoed across the valley. 3 seconds later, Velthar saw dust puff up from the exact rock she pointed at. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Specifications do not matter if you know your weapon," Sora said. She smiled. "Earth taught us that. We learn to work with what we have." Later, Velthar spoke with Corporal Minho Lee, one of the human medics. Minho was organizing medical supplies in an underground bunker. "How many casualties are you preparing for?" Velthar asked. 40%, Minho said without looking up. 40%? That would mean 2,000 soldiers wounded or killed. "Yes. But no army can function with 40% casualties. You would have to retreat long before that." Minho finally looked at him. His eyes were calm. "We do not retreat. That is not how humans fight." "But you asked how many casualties I am preparing for," Minho said. "I told you. Now let me work." That night, Velthar sat with General Kang and Colonel Hyun Bae in the command bunker. Maps covered the walls. The general was eating a ration pack while studying reports from scouts. "General," Velthar said carefully, "I must ask. Your preparations seem designed for a major battle, but this is a quiet sector. The Draxians will not attack here." Kang looked up. "Maybe. You think they will come?" "I think they will go where they think they can win," Colonel Yunbei said. "Right now, they are pushing hard on the main front. They are winning. But soon, they will wonder about this valley. They will send scouts. When those scouts report back that we are here with only 5,000 soldiers, they will come." "To destroy you," Velthar said. "To try," Kang said. He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "We are not here to hold this valley forever. We are here to make them bleed for it, to make them commit troops and resources. Every soldier they send here is a soldier not fighting at the main front." "You are bait?" "We are a thorn in their side," Hyunbei said. "And when you step on a thorn, you stop to pull it out. That takes time. That takes attention. That gives our allies time to regroup." Velthar made more notes. Human strategy was different from anything he studied before. Other species fought to win battles. Humans seemed to fight with a larger plan in mind. On the 5th day, the Draxians came. It was not a major attack. 500 Draxian soldiers approached the valley from the east. They moved in standard formation, their shields glowing as they advanced. "Contact," Captain Park reported. 500 enemy troops, grid reference 472. "Let them in," Kang said calmly. Velthar looked up in shock. "Let them in?" "First defensive line will observe but not engage," Kang ordered. "Let them reach checkpoint Delta." The humans watched as the Draxians moved deeper into the valley. Velthar could not believe it. They were allowing the enemy to penetrate their defenses without firing a shot. "General, they will—" "Watch," Hyun Bey said. The Draxians reached an open area between two hills. They stopped there, scanning the area. Finding nothing, they began to withdraw. "Now they know we are weak," Velthar said. "Now they think they know," Kang corrected. They saw empty trenches. They saw no resistance. "They will report back that this valley is lightly defended by primitives with simple weapons." "But that is exactly what you are." Kang looked at him with those dark, knowing eyes. "We are what we need to be." The Draxian scouts left the valley. Velthar watched them go on the monitors. His mind raced with confusion and growing concern. That night, Lieutenant Wu Jin Han was checking his squad's equipment. Velthar approached him. "You let them leave," Velthar said. "You could have destroyed them." "Yes," Wu Jin said. "Why did you not?" Wu Jin looked up at the stars. "Because 500 dead Draxians would make them cautious. 500 Draxians who think we are weak will make them bold. Bold enemies make mistakes. You want them to attack? We want them to commit everything they have to this valley," Wu Jin said. "We want them to think they can take it easily. We want them to bring their whole army here." He smiled that unsettling smile again. "And then we want to teach them why you should never underestimate humans." On the 8th day, news arrived from the main front. The coalition was collapsing. 3 defensive lines had been broken. Casualties were mounting. In the command bunker, coalition officers looked defeated. The humans did not look defeated. They looked ready. "They will come now," Kang said, studying the reports. "They smell victory. They will want to finish this war quickly. That means clearing every sector, including ours." "How many do you think?" Hyun Bey asked. 50,000, Kong said. "Maybe more. They want to end this fast." Velthar felt fear crawl up his spine. 50,000 against 5,000. It was suicide. But the humans were smiling. "Good," Major Song said. "Let them come. We are ready." Velthar realized something in that moment. These humans were not afraid of dying. They were not afraid of bad odds. They had prepared for this. They had expected this. Maybe they even wanted this. For the first time since arriving on Viridian Prime, Velthar understood that he was not observing ordinary soldiers. He was watching something the peaceful galaxy had not seen in 1,000 years. He was watching warriors. The Draxians came at dawn on the 10th day. Velthar watched from the command bunker as scanners showed the enemy force approaching. 50,000 soldiers, artillery units, armored vehicles, gunships in the air. It was an overwhelming force designed to crush any resistance quickly. General Kang stood at the tactical display, watching the red markers move closer. His face showed no emotion. Around him, his officers worked calmly, speaking in quiet voices. No one looked afraid. Velthar's hands were shaking, but the humans seemed almost relaxed. "All units positions," Kang said into the communication system. "Remember the plan. Make them pay for every meter." The first Draxian units entered the valley from the east. They moved in tight formations, shields at full power. Their commanders expected light resistance. They expected an easy fight. They were wrong. The valley exploded. Artillery hidden in the mountains opened fire. Shells rained down on the Draxian formations. But these were not normal artillery strikes. The humans had spent days mapping every approach, calculating exact distances, planning perfect firing solutions. Every shell landed exactly where it needed to. The Draxians tried to advance, but the humans had turned the valley floor into a maze of obstacles. Tank traps stopped their vehicles. Mines detonated in carefully planned sequences. What looked like open ground was actually a killing zone, where every position had been measured and sighted. "Enemy taking heavy casualties," Captain Park reported. "They are trying to push through Checkpoint Alpha." "Let them," Kang said. "Fall back to secondary positions." Velthar watched as human soldiers retreated from their forward trenches. The Draxians surged forward, thinking they had broken the first line. But they were walking into another trap. Once they occupied the trenches, human artillery adjusted fire and bombarded their own former positions. The Draxians had nowhere to hide. In the first 6 hours, the Draxians lost 5,000 soldiers. They had not even reached the main defensive line yet. "They will change tactics," Colonel Hyun Bey predicted. "They cannot afford casualties like this." He was right. The Draxian commander pulled back and regrouped. Velthar monitored their communications. The Draxian officers were confused and angry. They had expected an easy victory, not this organized resistance. That afternoon, the Draxians tried a different approach. They sent smaller units to probe different parts of the valley, looking for weak points. They found none. Everywhere they moved, they walked into prepared defenses. Human soldiers seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Sergeant Sora Kim was on her ridge, 3 kilometers from the nearest fighting. Through his observation equipment, Velthar watched her work. She fired 1 shot, adjusted her position, waited, then fired again. Each shot hit a Draxian officer or important target. The enemy could not find her. She was too far away, using a weapon that should not have that range. "How does she make those shots?" Velthar asked one of the communication officers. "Practice," the officer said. "Sora has been shooting since she was 12 years old. Back on Earth, she won championships. She knows her rifle better than most people know their own hands." Night fell, and Velthar expected the fighting to stop. Every military force in the galaxy stopped fighting at night unless they had advanced night vision equipment. The darkness made combat too difficult and dangerous. The humans did not stop. Captain Jiho Park led his infantry on night raids. They moved through the darkness like ghosts, attacking Draxian camps and supply lines. The Draxians had night vision, but it did not help. The humans knew the valley perfectly now. They had spent days memorizing every rock, every tree, every path. Park soldiers would appear out of nowhere, strike hard, and disappear again before the Draxians could respond. By morning, the enemy had lost another 1,000 soldiers and most of their supplies. Their morale was breaking. Day 2 began with a new development. The Draxians called for reinforcements. 30,000 more troops arrived with orbital fire support. They were going to bombard the valley from space, something that should destroy any ground force. "Orbital bombardment incoming," a sensor operator reported. "All ships are targeting our positions." "Everyone underground," Kang ordered. "Now." The human soldiers disappeared into their tunnels like water flowing downhill. Within minutes, the valley looked empty. Then the bombardment began. Explosions tore across the landscape. The ground shook. Hills collapsed. The bombardment lasted for 2 hours. Nothing could survive that kind of firepower. The Draxian commander must have been certain he had won. He was wrong again. When the bombardment stopped, humans emerged from their tunnels. Their fortifications were damaged, but not destroyed. Major Song's engineering had saved them. The tunnels were deep enough and strong enough to survive. And while the Draxians thought they had won, they had actually done the humans a favor. The bombardment had destroyed much of the valley's vegetation, giving the humans clearer firing lines. "Counterattack," Kang said. "All units execute Protocol Defender." The humans did not wait for the Draxians to advance. They attacked. Infantry surged from hidden positions. Artillery resumed firing. The Draxians, who thought they were about to march through a destroyed valley, instead faced a fully operational enemy force that was angry and ready to fight. Colonel Hyun Bey's strategy was working perfectly. The Draxians had committed 80,000 troops to take the valley now. That was 80,000 troops not fighting at the main front. Coalition forces there finally had breathing room. They were regrouping, recovering, preparing to counterattack. But in the valley, the slaughter continued. By day 3, the Draxians had 120,000 soldiers in or around the valley. They outnumbered the humans 24-1. Mathematics said the humans should be dead. Mathematics had never met humans. They are preparing a final assault, Hyunbei reported. Everything they have, all at once. Kang nodded slowly. Then we give them protocol defiant. Velthar had heard that term before, but did not know what it meant. He was about to find out. General, he said, you are outnumbered 24-1. You cannot possibly— Watch, Kang said. The human soldiers abandoned their defensive positions. They gathered their weapons, checked their ammunition, and prepared to advance. They were going on the offensive against a force that outnumbered them massively. It was insane. It was suicide. It was terrifying. The humans attacked across the entire valley at once. They did not advance carefully or cautiously. They ran forward under heavy fire, accepting casualties, closing distance with the enemy. Velthar watched in horror as human soldiers fell, wounded or killed, but the others kept coming. They did not slow down. They did not stop. Other species retreated when casualties reached 15%. That was basic military doctrine across the galaxy. Losses beyond that broke unit cohesion and destroyed morale. The humans kept fighting at 30% casualties, at 40%. They just kept coming. Corporal Minho Lee and his medics worked miracles on the battlefield. They dragged wounded soldiers to cover, patched them up with quick battlefield medicine, and sent them back into the fight. Soldiers who should have been evacuated were still fighting, fueled by nothing but determination and medical drugs that kept the pain away. The Draxians began to break. Velthar monitored their communications and heard the fear in their officers' voices. They were used to enemies who acted reasonably, who retreated when the odds were bad, who valued their lives. The humans did not seem to care about the odds. They just kept coming. Their morale is collapsing, Hyunbei reported. Enemy units are starting to retreat without orders. By the end of day 3, the impossible had happened. The Draxian force was shattered. 90,000 casualties. The survivors were retreating in disorder, abandoning equipment and supplies. Some of them were running. The Battle of Corvin Valley was over. Velthar walked through the valley after the fighting stopped. Human soldiers sat among the ruins, exhausted and bloody. Of the 5,000 who had started the battle, only 2,100 were still able to fight. But they had held. Against impossible odds, they had won. General Kang stood on a ridge, looking at the battlefield. His uniform was torn and covered in dirt. Blood stained his sleeve from a wound he had not bothered to treat yet. But his eyes were clear. "You did it," Velthar said quietly. "I do not know how, but you did it." Kang looked at him. "We did what humans do. We fought. We did not give up. We made them afraid." He turned back to the valley. The galaxy has been at peace for so long, they forgot what war really is. They forgot that sometimes you have to be willing to pay a terrible price to win. "Was it worth it?" Velthar asked. Kang was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Ask the people who are still alive, because we stopped the Draxians here. Ask the worlds that will not fall now, because we held this valley. War is never worth it, but sometimes it is necessary." Velthar looked at the tired, wounded humans around him. He finally understood why they had come, why they fought, why they never gave up. The galaxy had called for warriors, and humanity had answered. The war changed after Corvin Valley. Coalition forces, inspired by the human victory, found new courage. They pushed back on every front. The Draxians, who had seemed unstoppable before, were now losing ground. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 5,000 humans had stopped 120,000 Draxians. It seemed impossible, but it happened. Velthar spent weeks compiling his report. He interviewed every human soldier he could find. He reviewed battle recordings. He analyzed tactical decisions. Nothing in his 147 previous studies prepared him for what he learned about humanity. He found Lieutenant Wu Jin Han in a medical facility, recovering from wounds. His leg was broken and his left arm was in a cast, but he was alive. "How do you feel?" Velthar asked. Wu Jin shrugged with his good arm. "I have been hurt worse. I will heal." "Did you know the battle would be that violent, that costly?" "We knew the numbers when we landed," Wu Jin said. "We knew what we were facing. We came anyway. That is what humans do." "But why? Why risk so much?" Wu Jin looked at him with patient eyes. "Because someone had to. Because if we did not stop them here, they would keep going. They would reach more worlds, kill more people. Maybe eventually they would reach Earth. We came here so we could fight them far from our home, far from our families." Velthar made notes. He was beginning to understand something important about human thinking. He found Sergeant Sora Kim next. She had lost her left arm in the final day of fighting. A piece of shrapnel had torn through her shoulder, but she was already learning to shoot with her right hand. "I am sorry about your injury," Velthar said. She looked at her missing arm and smiled sadly. "It is what it is. I am alive. Many are not. Do you regret coming? Regret fighting?" "No," she said firmly. "I regret that we had to fight at all. I regret every soldier who died, human or alien. But I do not regret standing up to bullies. That is what the Draxians are. Bullies who thought they could take whatever they wanted. Someone had to tell them no. Other species tried to stop them. They failed." Sora nodded. "Other species grew up together. They learned to be peaceful together. They built their societies around cooperation and sharing. That is beautiful. That is good." She paused. "But Earth was different. We did not grow up with other species. We grew up alone, competing with each other. Every nation, every tribe, every group fought for resources. We spent thousands of years at war." "That sounds terrible." "It was," Sora agreed. "But it taught us things. It taught us how to fight, how to survive, how to win when the odds are against us. When the galaxy needed warriors, we already knew how to be warriors. We never forgot." Velthar requested access to human historical records. General Kong gave him permission to review classified files. What he found shocked him. Human history was an unbroken chain of warfare stretching back 10,000 years. Wars between tribes, wars between nations, wars between continents, small conflicts and world wars. The records showed tactical innovations developed over centuries: siege warfare, naval combat, trench warfare, combined arms operations, guerrilla tactics. Humans had spent their entire history perfecting the art of organized violence. "My God," Velthar whispered as he read. Other species had wars in their past, but nothing like this. By the time most species reached their industrial age, they had learned peace. Humans reached their industrial age and immediately had 2 world wars that killed millions. He took his findings to General Kang and Colonel Hyun Bei. They were in a temporary command center, planning the next phase of operations. "I have been studying your history," Velthar said. "Your species. You have been at war almost continuously for your entire existence." "Yes," Kang said simply. "That is horrible." "Yes," Kang agreed. "It is. We are not proud of it. We do not celebrate our wars. But we learn from them. Every battle, every campaign, every war taught us something. That knowledge gets passed down, from soldier to soldier, from general to general, from parent to child in the form of stories and lessons." "Your culture has trauma memory," Velthar said. "You remember warfare generation after generation." "We remember so we do not repeat the same mistakes," Colonel Hyun Bei said. "But yes, we remember. Other species in this galaxy achieved peace 1,000 years ago." They forgot how to fight because they did not need to fight anymore. We achieved peace only 100 years ago. We still remember how to fight because we had to remember. Why did you have to remember? Kang looked out the window at the stars. Because we knew that one day someone might threaten us again. Earth learned that peace is precious, but it is not guaranteed. You must be able to defend peace or someone will take it from you. So we kept our weapons, we kept our training, we kept our knowledge, just in case. And then we found you, Hyunbei added. We found a galaxy at war, a galaxy that had forgotten how to fight effectively. You needed warriors, so we became warriors again, not because we wanted to, but because it was necessary. Velthar learned other things too. Human bodies evolved differently from most species. They were persistence hunters on their home world. They could run for hours, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That same biology let them fight for days with little rest. Their psychology evolved in a competitive environment. They did not freeze when facing superior numbers. They adapted. They found solutions. You are built for warfare, Velthar said, not just culturally, but biologically. We are built for survival, Kang corrected. Warfare is just one form of survival. Earth was not a gentle planet. It made us strong or it killed us. We became strong. One thing still confused Velthar. Why did Earth join this war? You could have stayed neutral. The Draxians were far from your space. Kang's expression hardened. Our intelligence discovered that the Draxians were scouting our star system. They were preparing to expand in our direction, so we had a choice. Wait for them to come to Earth, or strike first on foreign soil. Keep the war far from our home. You attacked preemptively? We defended preemptively, Hyunbei said. There is a difference. We did not start this war, but we will finish it, and we will make sure it never reaches Earth. That night, Velthar compiled his conclusions. Humanity was not like other species. Their evolution, their history, their culture had all shaped them into something unique. They were not stronger than other species. They were not smarter, but they had 10,000 years of practice at organized violence. They had learned lessons that peaceful species never needed to learn, and now they were sharing those lessons. Human military advisors were training coalition forces. Human tactics were being adopted across the fleet. The Draxian advance had stopped completely. For the first time in 30 years, the coalition was winning. General Kang, Velthar said during their final interview, what will humanity do when this war is over? Kang thought for a moment. We will go home. We will remember those who died. We will rebuild our forces and stay ready, because there will always be another threat someday. That is the sad truth of the universe. Are you not tired of fighting? Every day, Kang said quietly. Every single day. I hate war. Every human soldier hates war. We have seen too much of it. We know what it costs. But we also know that sometimes hating something is not enough. Sometimes you have to do terrible things to protect what you love. The galaxy will never see humans the same way after this, Velthar said. I know, Kang said. They will fear us. Maybe that is good. Maybe fear will prevent the next war. Or maybe it will cause problems later. We will deal with that when it happens. For now, we have a job to finish. Velthar submitted his report to the Galactic Council. He classified it as Category Omega. Information that changed everything the galaxy thought it knew. The peaceful species of the coalition had accidentally created the perfect weapon by inviting humanity into their war. They had armed themselves with warriors who remembered how to fight, how to win, how to endure. As he sent the report, Velthar realized something important. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had proven that peace required strength, that being good was not enough if you could not defend yourself, that the universe respected power, and humans had mastered the oldest, most fundamental form of power, the ability to win wars. 6 months after the Battle of Corvin Valley, Commander Velthar stood before the Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber held representatives from hundreds of worlds. Today, they would decide humanity's future in galactic society. The war with the Draxian Empire was over. After Corvin Valley, the coalition had pushed forward on every front. Human tactics and training spread through their forces like wildfire. Battles that would have been lost before were now being won. The Draxians, facing an enemy that finally knew how to fight back, began to collapse. The final campaign lasted 2 months. Human-led forces captured 5 core Draxian worlds. The Draxian military, which had seemed unstoppable for 30 years, surrendered. They sued for peace and agreed to return all conquered territories. The war was over, but now the council had to decide what to do about the humans. Velthar's report sat in front of every council member. Category Omega classification. Some of them looked at it with gratitude. Others looked at it with fear. All of them understood that humanity had changed the galaxy forever. Commander Velthar, the council speaker said, you have studied humanity more than any other observer. Tell us what you learned. Velthar stood. He had prepared this speech for weeks. Honored Council, I have observed 147 different species at war. I thought I understood military science. I was wrong. He activated the holographic display. Images from Corvin Valley appeared. Humanity approaches warfare differently than any species we have encountered. They do not fight to win individual battles. They fight to win entire wars. They plan not in days or weeks, but in months and years. They accept casualties that would break other species. They never give up. Because they are violent, one council member said. It was Councillor Thex from the Vrexian homeworld. Because they enjoy war. No, Velthar said firmly. That is wrong. Humans hate war. I interviewed hundreds of them. Every single one spoke about war with sadness and regret. They do not enjoy fighting, but they are very, very good at it because they had to be. Earth gave them no choice. He showed images of Earth's history. While our ancestors were building peaceful civilizations, humans were fighting for survival on a competitive world. They evolved different psychology, different biology, different culture. They learned lessons we never needed to learn. And now they have brought those lessons to us. Lessons in killing, Councillor Thex said. Lessons in survival, Velthar corrected. The Draxians were killing us. We were losing. Humanity taught us how to fight back, how to protect ourselves. Is that not valuable? The council chamber filled with discussion. Some agreed, others worried. Finally, the speaker raised her hand for silence. General Kang, she said, please approach. The chamber doors opened. General Taiyang Kang walked in, followed by Colonel Hyun Bei. They wore their dress uniforms with medals earned in the war. They moved with quiet dignity, showing no fear despite being surrounded by potentially hostile aliens. General Kang, the speaker said, this council must decide if humanity should be granted full membership in galactic society. Some members fear that your species is too dangerous, too violent. What do you say to this? Kang stood silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire chamber. You summoned us to your war. You called for help. We came. We bled. We died. We won. Now you fear us? We fear what you might do, Councillor Thex said. Your species has a history of conquest and violence. We also have a history of ending that violence, Kang said. We achieved peace on Earth. We stopped fighting each other. We learned that cooperation was better than conflict. That took us a long time, yes. But we learned. Yet you still maintain massive military forces, another counselor pointed out. Because peace requires protection, Colonel Hyun Bei said. The universe does not care about good intentions. It respects strength. We learned that lesson the hard way. We will never again be defenseless. We will never again be prey." "Is that a threat?" Counselor Thex demanded. "No," Kang said calmly. "It is a promise. We promise we will defend ourselves. We promise we will defend our allies. We promise that anyone who threatens innocent people will face consequences. If that frightens you, then perhaps you should ask why." The chamber exploded with discussion. Some counselors argued for accepting humanity. Others wanted restrictions. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a vote was called. When the results appeared, Velthar felt relief. Humanity would be granted full membership, but with a special designation. Earth would become the Coalition's military heart, the species that remembered how to fight when others had forgotten. After the vote, Velthar found Kang and Hyunbei in a corridor. "Congratulations," Velthar said. "You are now full members of Galactic Society." "With everyone watching us carefully," Kang said. He did not seem bothered by this. "Can I ask you something?" Velthar said. "Humanity's military motto, the one you adopted after the war, Si vis pacem para bellum, what does it mean?" "It is an old Earth saying," Hyunbei explained. "It means, if you want peace, prepare for war. It means peace does not come from being peaceful. It comes from being strong enough that no one dares attack you." That is a harsh philosophy. "It is a true philosophy," Kang said. "The galaxy learned that when the Draxians attacked. You wanted peace, but you were not prepared to defend it. So peace was taken from you. We are preparing the galaxy so that never happens again." 3 months later, Velthar visited Earth for the first time. He wanted to see humanity's homeworld, to understand where these warriors came from. Earth was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful from orbit. But when Velthar landed, he saw something that explained everything. There were memorials everywhere, walls covered with names, parks dedicated to fallen soldiers, museums showing the cost of war. Everywhere he looked, humans remembered their dead. They did not celebrate war. They mourned it. But they never forgot it. He visited a memorial in a city called Seoul. Thousands of names were carved into black stone. A human woman stood there, touching one of the names. She had tears on her face. "Excuse me," Velthar said gently. "May I ask who you are remembering?" "My grandfather," she said. "He died in a war before I was born. I never met him, but my father told me stories about his bravery, about his sacrifice, about why he fought." "Why did he fight?" "To protect his family, to protect his country, to give his children a better future." She wiped her tears. "That is why humans fight. Not because we enjoy it, but because sometimes it is the only way to protect what we love." Velthar understood then. Humans carried their war dead with them always. Every memorial, every story, every lesson learned in blood. They did not forget. They could not forget. It was part of who they were. That evening, Velthar attended a ceremony where Major Nari Song was promoted to general. She had recovered from her injuries and would now lead the training of coalition forces. Humans were teaching the galaxy how to defend itself. During his speech, the human president said something that stuck with Velthar. "We hope that one day, the galaxy will not need warriors anymore. We hope for a future where war is truly impossible. But until that day comes, we will stand ready. We will remember how to fight so that others can afford to forget." Velthar's final report to the Council was simple. Humanity has changed the galaxy in fundamental ways. They have proven that peace requires strength. That being good is not enough if you cannot defend yourself. They have reminded us of truths we forgot during our 1,000 years of peace. Some will hate them for this, others will thank them, but no one can deny that the galaxy is safer with humanity in it. Because now, when the next threat comes, we will be ready. As his ship left Earth orbit, Velthar looked back at the blue planet. He thought about everything he had seen, the battles, the sacrifice, the human determination to never give up. He thought about Corvin Valley and how 5,000 humans had stopped an army 24 times their size. He thought about Sergeant Sora Kim making impossible shots, about Corporal Minho Lee saving lives under fire, about General Kang standing calm in the face of certain death. He thought about a species that had spent 10,000 years at war and had finally achieved peace, only to go back to war to protect strangers they had just met. And he finally understood the answer to his original question. Why were humans known across the galaxy now? Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, not because they wanted to fight, but because when fighting was necessary, when innocent lives were at stake, when someone needed to stand between civilization and chaos, humans would answer the call. They would pay whatever price was required. They would endure whatever pain was necessary. They would never surrender, never give up, never stop fighting for what was right. The galaxy had learned that lesson at Corvin Valley. The Draxians had learned it the hard way, and now everyone knew it. If you needed warriors, humanity would answer. Not because they enjoyed war, but because they understood something the peaceful galaxy had forgotten. That sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be willing to fight for it, to die for it, to stand against the darkness no matter the odds. That was why humanity was known across the galaxy. That was why the universe would never underestimate them again, because they had proven something that no one could deny. When humans entered the battlefield, they did not just fight to win. They fought to protect. They fought to preserve. They fought so that others would not have to fight, and they would never stop fighting for as long as someone needed protection. That was the human promise. That was the human way, and the galaxy would never forget it.